Welcome to another dojo topic. Today we're going to be talking about anger. Have you ever had this expulsion of anger where you've been holding on to something for so long and all of a sudden it's just like the dam broke and you let it all out? That's what we talked about today at the dojo. That and working through the koshas. So if you're not familiar with the koshas, I am going to explain a little bit about that as well today. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can get the benefit of everything that we talked about today. I kind of get like a visual. This is why I like to share some slides. So again, we meet every Tuesday virtually. You're welcome to join us. If you cannot join us live, then please feel free to subscribe and watch these videos every week because I post a new one every Tuesday. So last week's topic was about aligning with your infinite nature. And if you were unable to join us or you missed the video, I will put a link to that video at the end of this video. But again, today we're going to be talking about you've lost your temper. Now what? I mean, some of us just, we get to that point and it's too much. We're like, okay, wait, I've just lost it. But then what happens after that? And that's what we're going to talk about here. Now, this is not to be confused with physical, when you lose your temper and you get physical. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's not what this is about. This is about, when you get it out and maybe you're yelling or, saying something that's been on your mind for a very long time. So, completely different than, when you lose it physically. That's a different topic. So, you've lost your temper. Now what? So, what happens when this is how we want to live our life, right? We want to be all kumbaya, peace, serenity, calmness. This is how we want to live our life. But what happens when this happens? We think we're being all kumbaya and then anger erupts from you and you don't even recognize who you are when this happens. What happens when you do that? What do you do with it? To answer that, let's look at the koshas. Now, you're looking at this picture, you might be thinking chakras. So there is a similarity, but if you're unfamiliar with the koshas, they're usually listed from physical to subtle, but listing them that way encourages duality, living from the dualistic realm. And so I'm going to be talking about it today the way it was explained to me by my teacher and working from non-duality. So I'll be sharing from non-duality as the starting point. So these layers are not separate, but interwoven, like the layers of a flower, guiding us inward on the journey to self-realization and spiritual awakening. The word kosha means sheath in Sanskrit, and each layer represents a different dimension of our being, like the layers of a flower. We begin and remain as attributeless awareness, an open space within which everything is appearing. It's formless, and all the forms appear within that space. You are the pure potentiality of attributeless awareness. You are infinite attributeless awareness. That's who you are. That's your birthright. And the koshas allow us to experience different experiences. So when we're talking about the koshas, there are 5 of them. We talk about the body of bliss, the body of wisdom, mental body, the energy body, the physical body. Now, the body of bliss is effortless being as a natural self. Its natural self contained heightened sense of euphoria. Nothing is needed to experience this kosha. It just is. It is bliss. The body of wisdom is also effortless being. There is no formula or practice to have this experience. It always arises effortlessly and seems to come from nowhere. Effortless being is your true nature. It's what you've always been and always will be. You may have heard me talk about this when I talk about awareness in past videos. So that's also something that you could go back and listen to. So in the dualistic realm, we've all been programmed into individuality from a very early age. But when you're thinking from awareness, and when I say awareness, there are many different names for it. People have different names: awareness, God, infinite intelligence, source. So, of course, use the word that resonates with you the most. But when we are experiencing from awareness and the wisdom body, we are experiencing our true self. But from a very early age, we are taught that we are a person, we have a name, we have things that we have to learn, things that we are, things that we aren't. And as we move in and out of the body wisdom, your true infinite nature is always present. It's always there. Awareness is always aware of everything. And that's our true nature. The mind, the emotions, and the physical realm can be turned off when we remain as the body of wisdom or effortless awareness. And then, of course, the last three koshas have to do with the dualistic realm: the mental body, the energy body, the physical body. The journey through the koshas is like peeling back layers of illusion to reach the unchanging self. So if you think about that flower that I showed a little bit ago, if you could just take one and like if the flower were closed and starting to open, it's not like that you're getting rid of anything. It's just like you're opening up and you're seeing more of what is there. By working through each sheath, we awaken to our essence, a luminous being of spirit, infinite and free. Effortless being is our true nature, but the dualistic realm works overtime to keep us invested in duality. And we talk about duality of the mind um, in other topics, and you're welcome to join us every Wednesday if you like at 10 o'clock PST, Pacific time, if you want to know more about non-duality. Um, because when we're working through the koshas, when we are experiencing non-duality, when we are experiencing awareness, it's not about bypassing your anger. So sometimes, if we get angry and then we get shocked and we say, "Oh my gosh, why did I say that? Why did I act that way?" Um, then we're stuffing it down. Then we're like trying to push it in the background someplace and we're trying to suppress it. And that's where we can get tied up. You can get tied up about that. So remember, it's not about bypassing anger. It's about moving through it layer by layer until you return to your essence. So if you think about the koshas, let each kosha become a stepping stone from reaction to revelation. When we're going through the ups and downs, we're actually moving through the koshas. So when we're feeling great, and then boom, we dip down and we feel not so great. And then we're feeling strong and healthy. And then so it's like this roller coaster ride of ups and downs. Well, that's actually us moving through our koshas. And it's perfectly, perfectly orchestrated by awareness, infinite intelligence, God, source, whatever your word for it is. You are the infinite being. So how can any experience be wrong? Every experience is an invitation to accept or decline, including the experience of anger. So now that you've accepted the invitation for anger, what's next? Here's where living unapologetically comes into play. Because if speaking your mind is new for you, you may be inclined to apologize for your outburst. This would be a great time for you to go back and watch the video we did a couple weeks ago on a topic we titled Living Life Unapologetically. Because, you know, really, if you that video really explains about why we apologize, why we feel the need to apologize. So if you would review that, I highly encourage you and invite you to think twice before you apologize if you've had an outburst of anger. Because if your anger was an opportunity to clear something you've held on to long enough, why would you look for absolution or offer apologies? Now, every situation is different. When there are outbursts of anger, things are said, this person says that person says that, and then maybe it could be like, one-upping and trying to hurt each other on purpose. And so there can be um different experiences, let's just say it that way. But I'm talking about, when you've been holding on to something for so long, and then finally it's just like the dam breaks and you're like, blah, 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 blah. And you just feel so much better after getting it off your chest, after finally saying the words that you've been, holding on to, holding back, repressing, suppressing. Um, this is what I'm talking about in this outburst. So if something has been released from you, why would you offer an apology? Anger is the least powerful in terms of invitations because the energy tends to flow directly through, whereas emotions such as anxiety, depression, they tend to be more pervasive because energetically, they're really quite neutral. The invitation we receive from the dualistic realm are designed to put us into personalization. And the most intense invitations tend to be the most disturbing. If anger is a predominant invitation for you, think in terms of dualistic intelligence as having a file on you. It knows everything about you. Because infinite intelligence is a combination of love and intelligence and love, whereas dualistic intelligence is a combination of intelligence and fear. So right, when you're feeling something, when you're experiencing something, that if it's coming from a place of love, that's coming from your infinite nature. But if you are experiencing something that's coming from a place of fear, suppression, anger, any of the lower frequencies, that's coming from the dualistic realm. And if it's coming from the dualistic realm, it's not true. It's something that you've been buying into. It's like an algorithm that you've been feeding. And just like, when you're shopping online and you're looking at certain things, the internet knows, like, oh, look, she's looked at this and looked at this. So let's send her ads about this. Well, that's what the dualistic realm does too. When you have been buying into something, you're feeding that algorithm, and the dualistic realm says, let's give her more of this. Let's give her more of this. And this is where you have the power, you have the ability to stop accepting those invitations, right? What happens? Like the internet is going to stop sending you the ads if you stop researching and looking at that information. Same thing with the dualistic realm. And sometimes that outburst of anger is like the final, nope, I'm turning this off. That's it. I'm done. No more. I am not accepting this anymore. So if you get to the point where you absolutely lose your cool and say all the things you've been holding back for as long as you can remember, congratulations and pass the meatballs, man, because that means you have finally cleared something that's been buried so far in the back of your attic that you probably didn't even know it existed anymore. What if losing your temper was the emotional release, the final clearing you've needed to move through the koshas? Remember, it's not your anger. Can you hold anger in your hand? No, you cannot. You cannot hold anger in your hand and say to someone, look, here's anger. It's impossible. So it was never yours. It was never yours to begin with. It doesn't belong to you. Don't accept it as something personal. Even tightness in the body or thoughts of the perfect comeback. Like if, you're having this argument and they say something and you're like, blah, blah, blah. you know, that simply forms arising effortlessly in that space. There's only awareness of the sensations. That's all it is. It's the definition that you are giving it when you are aware of it. When you see the form arising and you say, oh, that's XYZ, that's going to create the reality. That's going to create the experience. But remember, those are simply invitations that you can accept or decline. So even if you end up shouting and storming off, there is still only ever awareness. Remain as awareness and remain as the effortless being that you are. You know, if you're wondering, like, how do I decline the invitations? I'm feeling like this, and I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to have these experiences. I don't want to accept these invitations. How do you decline the invitations? Well, this is what it's meant by living effortlessly, effortless being. Declining invitations takes no effort. You simply see them arising, the forms that they are. I think of them kind of like Tai Chi moves. You know, when I'm doing Tai Chi, um, I'm bringing in the energy, and then the energy is going in the opposite direction, and then flowing in this way. I'm not accepting anything. I'm simply allowing it, watching it arise, feeling the energy moving around. That's kind of like what I think about. And there's no effort. It's very effortless to do this. Now, if I'm stopping the movement and I'm trying to make something happen, that is efforting. So declining the invitations are effortless. It's accepting the invitations that take effort. And remember, you are awareness. You are the infinite being. Life is effortless when we allow it to be effortless. So, any emotions, any negativity that you're feeding into it, if you're looking at it as something negative, perhaps you could remind yourself to say, okay, yeah, I see that coming in, and I see that it happened, it arose, and I'm going to let it go back out. Because what if that outburst, as I mentioned, was like that final expulsion that your soul was craving? Like, oh, please, let's let's let go of this. I hope this gave you some insight about anger, what comes up for you, and maybe a different way to look at it. Please, I invite you, stop beating yourself up. Stop apologizing for what's coming up in you. Stop apologizing for being who you are. You are amazing. If you would like any kind of support with this work, please visit me at masteringyourbeliefs.com. In the meantime, this is Nancy Muller, the one and only Life Sensei, saying, ciao for now.